there. Who knows?
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. We come to you live every day at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 Pacific for about an hour or 90 minutes each day. We do 3 gun-related topics, different topics throughout the week. We run it live on YouTube and simulcast it over at gunchannels.com, where we're watching the comments from all the people that are watching the show live. Every once in a while, we'll take the audio from the show and post it up on iTunes as a podcast. So we encourage anybody who's listening to the show now or in the future to leave us some feedback on whatever platform it is you listen to us on. Lets us know where you are, and hopefully we'll encourage more listeners to let the show out there to more people listen. We are definitely looking for that, so we appreciate that favor. There are 4 hosts. 3 of us are here today. We've got Bob jumping in from Canada. Thanks for joining.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We got Dano jumping in from Illinois.
Yep. Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Smeggy's out shooting with some of the guys from Gun Channel, so they may or may not jump in depending on internets and what they're doing. And then I'm down here in Arizona. So let's see. Today is Tuesday. That makes it episode 372. And it's Second Amendment Day. So we're going to be talking about Second Amendment issues, the NRA's role in the Second Amendment. We have a wild card topic. So if you have some idea for that wild card topic, let us know. It's one of the ways that we engage the audience in this interactive media that we're playing with. And then the third segment of the show today is the state of the state. Today it's New Mexico, so we'll talk about gun laws over in New Mexico. Every day we talk about a gun shop, a gun of the day, a movie, other things. But before we dig into the show, we usually take a break right at the beginning to see if anything happened overnight or anything that's worth talking about. And then
I was kind of off the grid last night, so I really didn't hear nothing. Had some good chats, but yeah.
They had a solid kickoff last night of a new effort that's been out there that I've been very glad to kind of help along.
You're talking about the Gunshow Loophole Tour 2017?
Absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned that. But yes, last night I was able to participate and help that get rolling.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. And the first people that participate will get extra loot. So there's some perks out there for people that want to grab a patch for the 2017 tour. Basically help put some gas into the tank. And like I said, the first people that participate will be thanked with extra loot. So Dan was talking about a project that is over on the Indiegogo platform, which is sort of like Kickstarter. It's a crowdfunding place, and we're doing a crowdfunding effort for the Gunshow Loophole Tour. So we started it last year with the old Chevy van and got to California. We've got about 6,000 miles on the tour, and then the van broke down. So spent a while getting ready to, getting a new van, and now we've got the new one, and we're getting ready to point it down the road for the 2017 leg. And this is a way for people that want to participate, keep gas in the tank, and keep us fed. And you'll get a patch in return, as well as some other cool stuff. We're trying it a little bit differently this time. So you can get a patch, but then you can also, don't I have in here to get some gun, or I thought I had in here for getting some, oh no, that's over on Patreon. So we're going to have a thing over on Patreon. So if you want to grab some what do we call them, business cards from the various gun shops we visit, that's another way you can participate as well. So yeah, thanks Dano for mentioning that, and thanks to the people that already jumped on board. The 9 people that jumped on board already have gotten us to 72% of the goal. That first goal will get the patches for the tour made and shipped out to everybody. I'd like to have patches because I'm a patch guy. Right? I like them, and I think it's cool when you go into a gun shop and they're cool and they've spent some time with you. I don't make appointments necessarily. I just kind of show up. And Bob can tell you, sometimes you show up and you're just a customer and you leave. Sometimes, though, if they're a bit bored or whatever, the stars align right, you end up chatting with them. And sometimes we've stayed half an hour or longer chatting with people, getting all kinds of interesting information and, making friends. So with a situation like that, it's nice to be able to leave them with something, and something like this patch that commemorates the tour, I think is extra cool. So I appreciate everybody that's jumping on board. We basically already funded the patches. Now it's just a matter of finishing up those shipping so everybody gets them, and then anything additional to that would start being gas in the tank. So it'll go until the end of the month. I have it ending this time on the 29th. So if anyone knows what the is it the 29th? Let me double check. Yeah, the 29th. If anyone knows what the 29th is, there's extra credit for that. But that's the day it'll end, 2 a.m.
And just a reminder, that is this month, not next month. So this is a less than 30-day event.
Correct. August 29th, 1997. A date that will live in infamy. All right, thanks for mentioning that. And that's our first, I guess, sponsor of the show in a while. So if you want to participate in the show, one of the reasons we're driving around is so we can look at a new gun shop every day. One of the reasons we started doing this show is so that we could talk about gun shops. All right, so looks like DB joined us. Thanks for jumping in. So DB is a friend of ours from the Gun Channels community and YouTubes, and not real life. None of us have met, have we? No. Although DB showed up all kinds of places to meet up with Gun Channels people. Anyway, thanks for jumping in. You're Smeggy today.
Yep. I'm Smeggy every day.
Yeah, but now you're
Smeggy. Yeah, Smeggy's a state of mind, if you think about it.
It's true.
There you go.
You got to be a pretty cool dude to be a Smeggy.
Oh, that was a good idea. I probably should have put a link to the thing, huh? Always thinking, Dano. Always thinking.
No, I just threw that over there to the side.
Did I even screen share it? I thought it was screen shared at least.
You did, but.
All right, I'm grabbing it. So anyway, today is Second Amendment Day. So our first topic is the NRA's role in the Second Amendment. Where do we want to go with that one?
Well, I mean, they're an important part of keeping it.
I think their role, what they think their role is a lot bigger than what at least I would suggest their role is.
I think they invented it, like Al Gore invented the internet. No, my bad jokes they're not going over well.
No, you're dead on.
I was gonna, I think the NRA. I don't know what you'd have to get inside the mind of like 5 million gun owners that belong to them, and the board and the leadership there, and I don't know. I mean, that's a tall order. I'm sure some people think they're super important and in that organization, and some people might not. I don't know.
Well, we do know that Dano is
shout out to Chris Cox, though. I want to shout out Chris Cox, man, because the ILA is, like, I feel the more important arm of that organization, because they're the ones who are actively lobbying for firearms rights and stuff.
Well, you do know that Dano is close friends with Ron LaPierre, right? He's got pictures of himself with them, and they've got their arms around each other. It's it seems to be a pretty close relationship.
But
I know Second Amendment stuff. Good.
I was just going to say I was going to agree with DB in regards to Chris Cox and the ILA. Well, the ILA specifically in regards to being the muscle that helps either push for expanding our rights or keeps them from expanding and reducing our freedoms. Part of the NRA, and at least at this point in time, a phrase that's often bantered about is they tend to be the 800-pound gorilla in regards to the issues as far as the general public and the politicians perceive them. Now, in reality, it may be something slightly different than that. But that's how they're perceived. And the other thing is they also tend to suck a lot of the oxygen out of the room when it comes to pro-freedom ideas that they may not necessarily have inspired from within. And, squeezing out smaller players for freedom and gun rights.
Yeah, from both money and just attention. Like,
yes.
And it's good and bad, I guess. It's like if you walk up to somebody and ask them, who's the gun owners' rights group, they don't have to be a gun owner to say NRA. So I guess in a lot of ways that's good. It could be used to our advantage. But then, like you're saying, I think a lot of ways it just eclipses, since we have eclipse coming, right? It eclipses all the efforts that are a lot of efforts being done by a lot of people. Have we ever
I don't want
looked
to be
at
like NRA fanboy stuff, but they do promote a lot of safety. There's a lot of classes they teach. They're constantly promoting the gun safety rules. They do other stuff too, I guess.
Well, that's interesting. So there's a couple ways to look at it, I think. So as a whole, you know, they're a big organization, sure, but as a whole, as far as what are they doing in the industry or the community or the segment of society or whatever, they're definitely in more than any of the others, and that's legally to some extent. Because if you're, for example, if you're a what is it, a lobbyist, you can't be an educator. If you're an educator, you can't be, I don't think you can raise money. And if you're raising money for people, you can't do the other things. You know, legally to be a nonprofit, you have to specialize in whatever role of nonprofiting you're doing. So NRA is big enough that they just have branches and all those things and put it all under the same umbrella. But and then they're huge, so they have the resources to be in all those platforms. So in that respects, I don't know if anyone can compete with them as being a representative for the Second Amendment. And if to just go further on that, that NSSF, who's the, as I've done research in the past, as far as I'm aware, they're the second oldest gun owners' rights group in the country, and they're the industry advocate. They're the ones that do the SHOT Show every year. They're the promoters of SHOT Show or whatever. They created that. So they're the industry end of the firearms industry or community. And they're huge. They're very big because they're run by the industry, but they're hidden because nobody really knows what NSSF is outside of the industry. But my problem with them is they spend a whole bunch of money trying to be creators of like public service announcements or PSAs, but theirs suck. Like they really, really, really are bad at it. And I think they're almost anti-gun at it sometimes, where the NRA, maybe it's because they put so much stuff out there. Every once in a while you look at the NRA thing and you roll your eyes like, come on, NRA. But there's a lot of NRA stuff. So it's just occasionally that they go too far. They're putting a lot of stuff out there that's good, and that you don't even notice it because it's valid and it's doing its job.
Yeah, and the other issue, I guess, is that in addition to sucking the oxygen out of the room as far as ideas as well as donations, is they've almost become, they have one aspect that's similar to government that really just grinds me, I guess, and then that's that there are so many activities that require a membership to the NRA versus requiring a membership to any pro-freedom group like the Second Amendment Foundation or something like that. And so instead of saying, okay, we're not going to just solely promote one gun rights organization, we just want to make sure that you're, as being able to enjoy our range as an example, that you somehow with your money put that towards a pro-freedom group of your chosen, of these 6 groups, well, I'll just say, or 5 groups or whatever. So at least there's some choice rather than being pinned down to, no, you have to be a member of the NRA or you cannot belong.
No, you make a good point though, because that, I mean, you're a valid point, but it makes sense because if you got a small enough organization, you don't have the resources to devote to keeping track of your membership's current status. So unless you're going to just say, please be a member and then not qualify it, you know, not actually follow up. If you are tasking one of your volunteers or something, or a paid member, even worse, with following up on a membership status like that, being able to just say, supply your NRA membership number, done. You know what I mean? That's easy. Or it's definitely a lot less effort for the group.
I just think it's a way of squeezing out their competition on the donation side.
No, I hear you. I see. The result is that the NRA gets bigger, and they're definitely bigger because of that situation. But that's, I think if you took the NRA out of there and it was the Second Amendment Foundation, or it was the Gun Owners of America, or it was some other giant organization, they would have the same dynamic, right? The same thing would happen. People would default to the main one that's easy to remember.
Well, but at least people would have a choice rather than it's only one way or no way.
Well, hold on. Again, you're talking about a situation where range is like, we want you to, in order to qualify for a discount, join a group, or maybe even in order to join, belong to another organization. That's not telling you not to join the Second Amendment or Foundation or the Gun Owners of America or something else. That's just saying you also need to be a member of NRA to be in that group.
Yeah, but by being a member there, it guarantees an NRA membership where otherwise there may or may not be that NRA membership.
Yeah, like if you want to go to the NRA show, they make you have to have a membership. But I can't think of any, like they have a range in Virginia. They have a really nice range, and I think you have to be a member to go there.
I don't think you, I don't know if you do.
I don't know, but my point is this: I'm a member of the Second Amendment Foundation, and I forgot I'm a member because they don't send me anything. They don't even ask me to rejoin. Like, they never sent me a card. They never sent me anything at all, and that's fantastic. They don't have a range. They don't put on a show. They don't do much. So it's like, I don't know.
Well,
it's like the NRA is. It's like at least they are doing stuff, and if you want to go, you got to be a member to go to the NRA show. I mean,
well, that's because the Second Amendment Foundation wasted all of their membership money bringing constitutional carry to Illinois.
Well, I'm just saying, I could sit here and bitch about the Second Amendment Foundation poor marketing, like they could have so many more members. The NRA only has 5 million members. I don't know. Can anyone find out how many members there are of the Second Amendment Foundation? What if it's like 100,000? Isn't it their fault that that no one knows about them? That they don't, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate. You can't be like, oh my God, the NRA, they're such greedy bastards. They put on such shows and advertise on Fox News all day long, and then you know the Second Amendment Foundation is like a mystery group. You know, like where no one knows about them.
No, you're 100% right, and that's not an insignificant aspect to it. The NRA puts out a lot of marketing effort, in lots of directions. We've seen in the last few years, especially, right? All kinds of directions towards all aspects of society, and they can only pull in 5 million or however many members. So think about the quantity of cost and effort and time and ingenuity and then just effort that's done on behalf of the NRA to get members, and then think about how much less of the resources all these other groups have. NRA is massive. It dwarfs.
My point is that you cannot blame the NRA for the Second Amendment Foundation poor marketing and mystery style of operating. Like, you know, I had to call them like, hey, you know, I haven't gotten anything from you guys. I just want to know, did you take my, you know, did you even get my payment? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh yeah, we send out cards once in a while. Like, we'll get you. I'm like, hey, don't even worry about it. I just wanted to know, am I a member? Like, I paid you money. You know what I mean? I don't know. So that's my point, is how can we blame the NRA for their, like, the way they operate?
Oh, I wouldn't.
What do you want the NRA to? You want the NRA to spend their money advertising for GOA or Second Amendment Foundation? Is that what the problem is?
No, no one's even
like,
saying
I don't.
I think all of us agree with you there.
Yeah.
And then I want to make one point, and this is super devil's advocate. You know, the guy from GOA goes on television a lot, and he comes off sometimes like super extreme and super, like, he's brash and says sort of like he makes it known that he's like taking it further to the extreme than the NRA. And that might turn people off. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying that, once again, can you blame the NRA for the way the GOA operates? Like, I don't think so. Like, that's on them.
No,
I'm curious to know the membership. I'm really curious now. I'll try to find out, like, what is the membership numbers? Because we know the 5 million because the NRA tells us all the time. Like, well, that's a big deal. Or the antis say it all the time.
Is that 5 million actually people that are committed members, or are those people that were simply forced? What of those 5 million were 2 million simply forced to be a member of a range? So that the real committed membership is really might be maybe only 3 million. I don't know. but because the way they do it, that I know that 5 million number is not true as far as committed members.
Well, I don't think anyone's forced to be a member. Like, no one's forcing you to be a member.
If you want to participate
I don't know.
or be
Unless
a member
because you want to be in a
gun function, you must be a member of the NRA.
Where?
Like my outdoor gun range, the closest one within 60 miles. You have to be an NRA member if you want to use that range.
Well, you
There's
don't have
no
to use
pay
the
a
range.
higher number.
I mean,
and
that's
not
what
be a
I mean.
member.
And that also has nothing to do with the NRA. Don't you agree? That
Like
only has something to do with your range.
Yeah, that's 100% your range. That's not, the NRA is just standing there, happen to be the biggest organization. I'm 100% convinced if the Second Amendment Foundation was the biggest organization, your range would say you got to be a member of the Second Amendment Foundation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I'm looking around the Second Amendment Foundation website, and it's not apparent, obviously, anywhere that what their numbers are. However, I'm digging into a 2014 financial audit report that they do have available here, which may, because it has all kinds of numbers. They made about they were dealing with $1.6 million in 2014. So that tells you how big they are compared to the NRA. Again, just a tiny fraction. But I am curious, like DB is, how many people are members of this one? But then I'm wondering, how many people, have we ever talked about how many people are members of all of the organizations versus the NRA? Because I'll bet you if you added up all the members of all the other gun owners' rights groups, it's probably still a fraction of the NRA, right? Like if you took every national level gun owners' rights group, Second Amendment Foundation, Gun Owners of America, JPFO, all the others, and then all the state level ones. I know the state level ones are at the 15,000 to 20,000, 100,000 maybe level. So they're not even anywhere near millions. And then the national levels, even if they're at millions, there's not enough of them to come up with, all together to really be there.
Yeah, it would be something less than 5 million. I'll grant you that.
So that means that, and how many of, I don't think anybody's a member of one of those other groups that isn't also a member of the NRA. I mean, there might be some percentage, but most of those people are going to be members of both, right? So we're talking some subset of 5 million people are active enough to be even a member of an organization. Now, I don't see anything that just gives me a number of members. They bring in $220,000 in 2014 from membership. So I don't know, their membership isn't much, so it's probably like $10 or something. So that might be 20,000 members, if that's a true proportion. But that would be a great question. In fact, that's something that I am curious about, and since it isn't readily available, and one of my projects that I'd like to do is one that I did a while back, where, since we're talking about Second Amendment stuff, I did a series of videos on YouTube a while back where I went through and researched various gun owners' rights groups. And I started with the oldest, which is the NRA, and then the NSSF. And then I came chronologically to the current, and did it back when I was doing those videos with PowerPoint a long time ago, like 2012. And tried to find out how many members they had, who organized them. It's actually all the stuff that's now on Every Second Matters. But I had like a slide for most of the big groups, and it would be great to go update all those slides at the gun owners, what is it called? The policy conference, gun rights policy conference coming up in Dallas. So that's something I could literally just ask everybody, go up to the various groups and say, how many members do you have? And they can just tell me. They're going to know. When were you created? Who did it? Maybe get the story behind each one. That'd be kind of neat.
That'd be kind of good. A good series.
There's not a lot of time for it, but maybe I could talk them into taking a minute away and just give me like a 2-minute story of how the place was created. Anyhow, so NRA being the 2A, being the Second Amendment. I mean, it's frustrating, but is anybody upset that it's the NRA? Is there like an obvious better ambassador?
Yeah, and does anybody else like concerned, I mean, I know we have the problem in Canada is that we have several different firearms rights groups. And, you know, on the one hand, I kind of feel like it's splitting our power up by, you know, not having one integrated group or at least one umbrella group that can, you know, mobilize all the, you know, the firearms owners to push for one thing. And that's one thing I think the NRA can do, is be that umbrella that, you know, can kind of mobilize the troops. You know, it's like you got several different armies, but you need one ultimate commander to be able to point them at the target.
Yeah, I don't know. No, if I would agree with you if they ever did it, but they don't ever do it. So it's real hard to go, yeah, they could, since they never do, and they've had the opportunity a million times. So I'm tough.
I have a question I want to throw out to the panel here on this issue, and it's a perception that I have, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, which is why I want to throw it out to you guys. Is that my perception is it's not just the NRA, but some of the other groups out there, that when they take on a case or an issue, they don't necessarily play well in the sandbox with some of the other pro-Second Amendment groups in regards to helping resolve the issue at hand that they're trying to fight for. With like a legal case.
I don't think it's always the case. I don't think we're dealing with a bunch of prissies that are constantly fighting with each other about who's getting asked to the ball or anything, but yes, that does happen. I don't know if it's happenstance based on the fact that most of us are inbred members of all of these groups, and that means that, you know, if I've got $20 that I can put towards the Second Amendment this month or this time unit, and 3 groups happen to want my $20, you know, that might be something that happens. But all those times when I have $20 a month and they sequentially need $20, you know, that it's smooth then. So I don't know if it's necessarily like they're at odds with each other as much as that since we're all in a small pond, we bump elbows once in a while. Nobody seems to have any animosity that I'm aware of for the most part. There's a couple of groups that do almost nothing for the Second Amendment, brag about how much money they raise, and then literally do nothing. But those groups are doing it completely publicly, so there's no reason to even bring them up. And their lack of any kind of action or presence on any of these kind of discussions or even the actual real meetups is, you know, enough to be said about those groups. But that's like the opposite of the NRA. There's luckily only a couple of those that are basically taking money out of the pile and just absorbing it and running off with it.
And I guess I was, you know, if one group is hitting the legal effort, maybe another group donate some funds for the legal defense or the legal effort. Because one group may be better legally than another, but it doesn't mean that a smaller one can't contribute, or a bigger one can't contribute to a smaller one that clearly has its fingers on the pulse of that issue.
Oh, definitely. And I think if you start watching the dynamic between the gun owners' rights groups, then you'll see that number one, they are playing zone. They exist in zone, like you're talking about. Like some of them are there to be lobbyists, and some of them are there to be educators, and some of them are there to be activists, and some of them are there to create legislation, basically write it and then pass it along to people to put in as bills. So they're all doing what their strengths are. And I don't think it's really, again, I don't think any of them, at least I'm not saying I'm aware of everything, but I've tried to keep aware, and I've met everybody, I think. I've never seen any situations or heard even any like gossip or anything about, oh, this group is in that group or competing for such and such. It's more like, again, they're all playing these zones. They're all doing their thing. But every once in a while, you know, to get concealed carry for Illinois, Second Amendment Foundation was in Illinois. You know, I mean, I don't know if that bothered the Illinois Rifle Association or not, but, you know, that's one of those potentials where, like, you know, we're in a crowded little pond, so there's going to be some elbows. Like when the Arizona Citizens Defense League, 4 dudes, right, that didn't even live in Arizona their whole lives, all of them. Some of them moved here to Arizona. 4 dudes got together at a Waffle House just outside of Phoenix back in the 90s, the end of the 90s. And however many years later, a few years later, there was constitutional carry in Arizona. One of those 4 dudes that sat down, Charles Heller, is the dude that wrote the bill that was introduced and it became law. The other guys were the other people that wrote that. So these are just 4 dudes that went on the internet and figured out how to write bills. They're no lawyers or nothing. They wrote a bill that became a bill, became a law. So that's how laws get made in the real life. And that's the size organization we're talking about. So, you know, these guys are nowhere near what the NRA is doing, but they're, I think, the Second Amendment. Sorry, I got lost on that one. All right, we've been going on this one for a while. Do we want to keep going?
I think we've chewed on it pretty good, unless somebody has a particular item they want to get out.
Dave says you have to be a member of the NRA to get in a shooting club because of insurance you get with the NRA.
Yeah, that's a benefit that the NRA does offer. Ranges is the option to get insurance through them.
I do think they come with accidental firearms death insurance or something like that. So, I mean, maybe that's what he's talking about, but he can't be talking about the, you know, few bucks they throw you if you lose a gun or if it gets stolen or something.
And then Artis and Tony found out that the Second Amendment Foundation has 650,000 members, so much more
wow.
than 650.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot more than I thought it was.
More than 10% of what the NRA has.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So,
not so bad.
And I would suggest that maybe I'm way off in my assumptions earlier, because I would think with a number that high, there could easily be hundreds of thousands of people in the Second Amendment Foundation that have nothing to do with the NRA, because it's either not core enough or they are discouraged by it or whatever, right? You know what I mean? That's enough people that I'll bet you there could be a sizable number that are only in the Second Amendment Foundation. So I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah.
So CloverTac has got a lot of knowledge about all this, being involved in the community with the volunteering and the kids and the NRA. Like DB talked a little bit about, the NRA not only does education and safety and stuff, but they do, well, I guess education to the fact where they qualify people, they certify people, they train people to be trainers and range officers and stuff. So NRA qualifications, NRA certifications are sort of like industry standards. So because they're such a large organization and because their training is so not just adequate but decent, it's basically the gold standard for all other training. Your training is either up to the level of the NRA or it's somehow, you know, beyond the level of the NRA, but it's consistent. It's like the McDonald's of training, and not the bad way, but in the way that, you know, you have consistency and it's everywhere. So anyway, CloverTac has a couple of things to say on the gun channel side. That it's up to the organizations to get their and their reps to get the words out, or they get the word out about their groups for sure. There's ranges in Texas that allows you to choose what to join. And when you think of something like, what's the rifle one? CMP, they give you a choice. CloverTac said the Texas State Rifle Association is about 36,000 members.
Yeah, and that's all I was really trying to make a discussion point for, was the to have an option, and an option of more than one.
So he says, and further, that the NRA pays a lot of their people, where the smaller groups do not. There are only a few groups with any kind of paid compensation, you know, people on a salary. Pretty much everybody's a volunteer. And that makes a lot of difference for all the things we're talking about, as far as membership acquisition and then just monitoring, being able to offer services and stuff. You know, it takes a lot. I'm sure that, you know, we all shake our fist at the NRA and all their money, but it takes a massive infrastructure to be able to maintain 5 million of anything, let alone people who are kind of wishy-washy. I'm sure it's like herding cats. Some of us are real dedicated and are always going to give them our money, and we're going to give them as much as we can. But then it's just as many are like fly by night. and are just as disinterested as soon as the next video game cartridge comes out, and it's a dilemma between, you know, a video game and the NRA membership.
And that's what I was kind of referring to when I was referring to ranges, that the ranges insurance, not the individual's insurance, but the ranges insurance is through the NRA, thus ensuring a revenue path.
Well, that's true. And again, I think that's probably, again, just almost a desperate thing. I don't know if that, maybe it's because they're in the right place and they're able and they're doing it as a service, but it's also probably like, you know, since we're here, this is a way we can make money. And honestly, there's probably not a lot of people that were doing range insurance whenever that became, you know, whenever we became more litigious and that became a necessity. I'm sure there wasn't like, you know, what was it?
Right.
State Farm didn't have rifle range insurance.
Oh, certainly. I just always like it when there's competition in anything, and there can't be any competition when there's only one of anything.
I would be more on your side, I think, if the NRA calculated it and like made that happen. But it's more a lack of gun owners' interest, thus a lack of, you know, need for more than one organization. All right, so
a friend of mine in New York, real quick, a friend of mine in New York is trying to get his gun permit, and he's going through the process of it in upstate New York. So he has a good chance of getting his carry permit, like a real good chance, and it's mandatory that you take an NRA safety class. Now, you can't be like, oh, it's the NRA, man. You know, they got together with the state, and they're forcing people, you know, to take these NRA classes. It's like, you know, I just think the NRA's just been around forever. What, they've been around for what? How many years? 100, 200 years or something like that? They've just been around the longest. They're the most established, and they teach a lot of classes on safety, concealed carry and stuff. They're embedded in a lot of states where it's like, in order to get your carry permit, you got to take an NRA class, right? So, I don't know. They're like the big behemoths. There's nothing you can do about it at this point.
Not give them a run for their money. I don't think they have, well, they've earned it, I guess. But again, I don't think it's like they sat down one day in 1780 something and said, hey, let's take over the country's like gun like memberships in the late 2000s or whatever. So, or the late 2010s. So, I think it's really just apathy. It all comes down to that all the time, right? 7 million people are a member of this NRA that we're talking about being the biggest, and we know there's a heck of a lot more gun owners than that, and there's actually a heck of a lot more people that are just actively, you know, pursuing recreational firearms and carrying for self-defense. So it's just us. We're the ones that don't join groups. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. The NRA being out there and being big and making a bunch of noise, it isn't happening in a vacuum. It isn't only going out in newsletters to members. It is happening in front of everybody, you know, anti and lazy. All right, at this point, I got to play host and move it along. We're at 4:40 already, and we've only done the one topic. So we got a wild card topic. Anybody who's watching, we like to play around with this new media, right? This interactivity. So there's a lot of people watching us live right now. Feel free to throw in a idea for this wildcard topic, and we'll skip right over and do the state of the state if Dan was ready. Yep. But before we do, we always take a break between the first and whatever becomes the second segment of the show each day to feature one of the members over at Gun Channels. Gun Channels is a place we built to feature firearms. It's a community. It's a bunch of people that get together and talk and share pictures and videos and news. And we do shows like this, and the audiences all get together and can participate in different things that are going on. To that end, it's completely run by its members, so we like to feature one of the members each day. There is a theme this week, and somebody might be able to figure it out. What was it yesterday? Dead horse? So today it's priest. So might be obvious, maybe it's not, maybe it's a trick. But anyway, priest is a member from Phoenix, if I remember right, and he was pretty active for a long time, and then had a kid and became inactive. And how often does that happen? Pretty much every time somebody has a first kid.
Yep.
Pretty much. So everybody thinks
first
that
kid, serious girlfriend, girlfriend becomes wife, or some sort of life change.
But yeah, they know that's the story. We talked about a dead horse, leave it, walk, and moving on. And you can't never tell when people are gonna lose interest in a thing that you're not tied to. That's a nice thing about gun channels is it doesn't cost a fortune. You're not, sucked into it like some kind of cult where you put all your money into it and now you're kind of obligated to hang out here, barely even paying for it if you're even paying for it at all. So at any time somebody can leave, and sometimes because they get sick of the place, sometimes they get sick of guns, right? They get sick of talking about it. Sick about just always talking about it and not doing anything, right? Who knows what? But I think in this case, like I say, it was Priest was learning what it's like to be a new dad. Anyway, nobody else has anything to say about him, so I guess we'll move on. So that would make us the state of New Mexico. So it turns out there's New Mexico.
There's this thing called New Mexico, very different than the old Mexico, for the state of the state today. Tuesday, August 8th, 2017. This is my Walter Cronkite impression. Not very good, but I did my best. And I know 90% of everybody out there is saying, who's Walter Cronkite? I know. All right, let's move it on. We have basically a list of categories and whether it's yeses and nos as far as each state. Starting off with, is there a state permit required to purchase? For both handguns and long guns, absolutely not. There is no firearm registration for long guns or handguns, and there is no assault weapons laws as well. There's also no capacity restrictions, which is certainly great. And there's no owner licensing required. Like in Illinois, we have FOID cards, firearm owners identification cards. There is no such thing. Carry permits required, none for long guns, yes for pistols. And I'll just read a little bit here. Shall issue to full-time and part-time residents, and then in parentheses, who hold a valid New Mexico / driver's license with passage of a criminal history check and mental health check and completion of a 15-hour handgun safety course that includes live fire instruction. Active military and law enforcement members and veterans honorably discharged within 20 years of permit applications are exempt from the training requirement. So that's certainly great on them for putting that last part in there. Open carry, yes, for both long gun and handgun. Vehicle carry is also a yes. Just a little tidbit on there. A loaded firearm may be carried / transported either openly or concealed in a vehicle without a permit. In regards to out-of-state permits required, it kind of depends on what state you're in. I won't go through the various states that New Mexico does recognize that you need to look up for yourself because you're all coming from different states. There is no duty to inform. Although not mandated by state law, it is customary in New Mexico to inform law enforcement officials when transporting firearms. Customary and legally required, two very different things. So that's why there's that little asterisk there. Concealed carry on college campuses, double no there for pistol and rifle. There is no restriction on NFA items. The state preemption of local ordinance is an absolute yes. And there is, it has Castle Doctrine no with a little asterisk. So I'm just going to read a little ditty here to try to put a little meat on that bone. New Mexico self-defense statute is vaguely worded and does not specifically address Castle Doctrine or stand your ground situations. However, Castle Doctrine has been established on a limited basis by a 1946 New Mexico Supreme Court ruling, which states that a person reasonably feels threatened with an attack need not retreat. So again, if you're concerned about that, you'll certainly want to read more into that because it's not an absolute. There is no duty to retreat. There is a opt-out statute, which I am not familiar with exactly what that means. So I'll read a little bit of something here. It says, property owners may prohibit the carrying of firearms onto property they lawfully possess by posting signage or verbally notifying persons upon entering the property. Violating these gun-free establishments is a full misdemeanor punishable by less than 1 year in a county jail and or a fine of up to $1,000. So that has to do with, can a business put a sign up on their entrances about no carry? Yes, they can. And there's a certain format that they have to follow. and it is a legal thing. So it's just not, oh, excuse me, sir, could you leave the premises? You can get arrested and spend time behind bars. So please be aware of that. In regards to peaceable journey laws, let me just read the description they have. It says one may travel through or within Mexico with a loaded weapon in a vehicle. Federal law preempts Native American reservation laws. So that's an important point right there for whether it be New Mexico or any other state that has Native American reservations. Federal law trumps Native American reservation laws. There is no background check required for private sales.
That's just on the road. You can't get out of your car on the reservation.
Yeah, and again, that's a good point of if this is something that may apply to you, you may want to do some additional follow-up reading, because I simply have one sentence. That's all the background meat I have to read on the peaceable journey law. So that's a good point, G-Webs. If you're going to be traveling through, you're going to want to do a deeper check than simply listen to what I have to say. And in regard to background checks for private sales, there is
an officer. Listen, officer. I can listen. I can play you the podcast where Dano said I can do this.
Exactly. If you're going to be traveling, this is just for general information. If you're going to, since you're the one who's going to have to pay the time if you do the crime, you're going to absolutely going to want to do your own due diligence in regards to states you're going to be traveling through, regardless of whether you're going to think you're going to stay overnight or not. Because what if you get a flat tire and they don't happen to have that tire in stock? So now you're staying overnight. So, and that is the state of New Mexico. Normally at this point, Smeggy would take it as far as possibility new bills that are being proposed in the New Mexico legislature, both at the in the state assembly level, but he is not here today, and I forgot that until the last moment. So we are going to have to leave the state of New Mexico at that, unless either of you guys happen to have anything.
Actually, sir, we've been booked into a small theater in New Mexico. Ooh, slow down there, maestro. This is New Mexico. Actually.
Okay.
That's classic.
And on that note, I'd like to thank you all for coming and sharing, and we'll see you tomorrow.
So yeah, Smeggy dropped the ball on this one. I don't think anything is happening in New Mexico. Actually, New Mexico is the battlefront for Bloomberg. He's going after him for universal background checks, I'm sure. I know that we had tried to do a coalition or something with New Mexico and other states around here, sort of like what you do when states share a river, right? And you have the resource of the river or something. We were going to do one that said if anybody tries to put a Second Amendment issue on the table, it has to be agreed to by all the members of the coalition. That would have been a neat preemption to the ballot initiative strategy that Bloomberg has been using successfully. So yeah, it would be interesting to get some people from New Mexico. So one of the things we're doing with this State of the State, we do this on every Tuesday now. It's important to us. We're not building this show for ratings, obviously. None of us have big boobs, and we're not doing anything that would be in the rule books for creating big views, right? We're not doing that. We're trying to encourage people to get up off their butt and participate. We're trying to inspire people to use their cameras and their webcams and their computers to use this easy to use social media stuff that our grandkids or your grandkids can use. And we want to educate people a little bit, but really get conversation started. So it'd be great if we can also inspire people in each of the states that we talk about to kind of pick up the baton. Because yeah, Dano's reading off of Wikipedia or something. Smeggy goes over to Every Second Matters and sees what other people have posted, and then some of the newsletters and things that he follows to keep track of what might be going on in a state. But how much awesomer would it be if there was a person or even two in each state? I mean, even if there was a person in each region, honestly, it would be a big improvement. But if we had somebody from each state, one person out of a state, there's probably 1 million people or more in, to monitor what's going on Second Amendment wise, that's a step. That's something that we can do. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this show. And, we want to put that out there. It's not just for you to sit back. I don't know what everybody's, we got 30 people listening now. 100 people or so will listen after this. No idea what all y'all are doing while you're listening to this, but I think by now, you know, we're not just doing it as an entertainment thing. We're not just creating a format so that Bob and I can fight about something. I mean, that happens every once in a while because we're friends, but you know, we're really trying to get these other goals accomplished. So take the baton and run with it. Tell us, you know, if we helped you inspire you, but who cares? You know, take the baton and run with it. Little effort. 4 guys sitting around in Arizona got us constitutional carry, and then inspired people in other states to do the same. So it is the acts of individuals that make change, and you're an individual. All right, with that, I guess we can move on to something less preachy. How about gun history? This is one of the best.
Gun history today. What's going on in history today?
This is one of the best days in gun history ever. I haven't even had a chance because I've been busy farting around all day to even put it on Instagram yet. But do you know what today in gun history is?
I think I do.
I don't, so share with the rest of the class.
Well, in 1648, Ibrahim, the Sultan of Istanbul, was thrown into prison.
Yikes.
Anyway, 1876, Thomas Edison patented the mimeograph. That's kind of neat.
Well, that was important.
1899, the first household refrigerating machine was patented.
Put a lot of people out of work.
1942, the U.S. Marines captured the Japanese airstrip on Guadalcanal.
That was good.
1945, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan. I didn't know that.
Yeah, after the bombs were dropped.
Like today, in 1974, Nixon resigned the presidency as a result of the Watergate bullshit. Interesting. Nope, they don't even mention it in here. So today is the day that Smith & Wesson patented the first cartridge.
First metallic cartridge, yes.
Yep. So 22 short, the best cartridge ever made, the first one ever made, the best one. They could have just left it there. Think of how the world would be if they would have just left it at 22 short. But anyway, how cool is it that we're talking about stuff that's basically, you know, like fundamental? A freaking cartridge, like a bullet in a cartridge. Obviously, we've all been alive for that. Like, we don't know what the world is without it, but can the world even exist without it? Is that something that can be deleted from history? No, like it already exists. Like the world is changed because of something like that. Right. And I think it's neat that when you think about the history of the world, you know, like whoever invented corn or something, good luck. There's no way to even know what region of the world hardly that came from. But something like the metallic cartridge, like that's all history. That's like, we've got the piece of paper that they know the date and the time that happened. So I just think that's neat that something as consequential as that, or like the mimeograph or whatever, that, you know, these all happened in, well, what, technically, like our grandparents' lifetime? No, that's our grandparents' lifetime. So in the overall scheme of things, really recently.
No, our great-grandparents' time, maybe.
I read his email. Why do I got to read his email? I have to open up
because he has a fairly decent description, and I figured I could show the pictures and go through those as you actually use his text, because I can't do both at the same time. You
know, Dano has trouble chewing gum and walking upstairs.
Well, I only have one screen. I'm not surrounded by screens and the Whopper Junior next to me, you know, thumping the internet.
More like I'm the guy. I'm the version where I've used the lid off of a soda can to get a free connection to the internet at some phone booth while the cops are after me.
Anyway, it was just a thought of how we could, you know, kind of do a listener. Somebody sent in a sporting goods store.
Yep.
So and I think we should cover it.
Supplies.
So that's the end of gun
history. Since
all right,
Peggy's not here today.
Right. So that's the end of gun history then. So today is the day that that Smith & Wesson invented the first cartridge. So everybody should go out and appreciate the 22 short for being the awesomest first cartridge ever made. So then we'll transition into our gun shop of the day. So one of the reasons we started doing this show on a daily basis instead of once a week, like the lazy people that do shows once a week. There's a whole bunch of lazy people that just do shows once a week. They don't care about Second Amendment as much as we do. We wanted to do a show every single day so that we could feature a new gun shop every day. And that's one of the big goals of the show. And we're finally getting to where that's going to be rocking and rolling. And course, we'll be driving around to some, but this is the part that's just as interesting to me, that people are, again, utilizing this whole interactive nature of this media and sending us in pictures that I'm assuming he went and took. So these are from Squib, who lives up near
You
Smeg.
can click on my thumbnail so the viewers can see it.
Oh, they can see it. So I'm going to be, I guess, tasked with reading what he wrote, and Dano will.
Yes.
All Dano has to do is click that little next button every once in a while.
Yep, that's all I got to do.
So.
Yep. So it's Jay's Sporting Goods.
Yeah, the big store in northern Michigan has 2 locations. They have a large selection of hunting, fishing, and camping supplies, as well as gift items and clothing. When he visits with the wife in northern Michigan, he goes to their stores. They have a lot of firearms, a layaway policy, and a lot of reloading supplies. I feel like that should be synchronized with what I'm saying more. All right, so over the 4th of July weekend, we were camping with our family north of Clare, Michigan. So I stopped in. There's a military surplus store next to this location that he'll be sending pictures of later, I hope. And this is now from the About Us section of their website. Jay's Sporting Goods was started in 1971 by Jay and Arlene Poet and is Michigan's original outdoor superstore. Starting from a 1-car garage, we've grown to over 90,000 square feet building in Clare and another 90,000 square foot building in Gaylord, Michigan. With a focus on the outdoor industry, Jay's can supply your needs in multiple product categories such as archery, firearms, fishing, camping, and clothing apparel to equip you on your next adventure. With a family-like atmosphere and faith-based focus, we are now in our 42nd year of business. That math doesn't, they must not have updated their site in a while. So what I like about that, now it's back to Squib's review. What I liked is that there are different signs starting at the outer entrance to the wall, past the registers. I don't know if Dan, I think he showed some of those. Progressively bigger and bigger. That stated, if you are bringing items into this store, please check them at the front desk. All items will receive a tag on them. Exceptions: concealed carry, open carry, do not need to be checked as long as you're not taking it out of the holster while in the store. So that's pretty cool. So he took a lot of pictures, but his camera sucks, so he deleted most of the blurry ones. When he asked permission to take pictures, the clerk behind the counter did not want me taking any. He offered to get his manager to see what his company policy was on taking pictures. When I spoke with her and explained what the Daily Gun Show was, she was okay with the pictures as long as I could promise her that they'd get posted on the show. She wanted to promote the store. So that's awesome. So thanks for that end part there, because we always try to encourage people to do it, and with a little bit of persistence, even with a no, you turn that no into a yes with hopefully happy return, because people will flock to wherever Claire.
Well, that's a great looking store. Like if I'm anywhere in the area, I'm going to check it out. I mean, like they got a huge amount of stock and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're not into reloading, that amount of powder variation in any one location is just. That's for, at least for me, I've never seen that much variation in one location.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. You'd be sitting there minding your business, and then you'd hear like as Dano's like scooting the couch over in front of all that powder to sit there.
Yep.
Have they shown? Was there a picture of the picnic table for you, Dano, with the coffee?
We haven't hit one yet. Now we're looking at the dyes and bullets and other green things.
Yeah, that's an impressive store.
And it's a cool story. Started out of the room.
Yeah, where is it again?
Clare, Michigan. I'm assuming that's somewhere in north Michigan.
Michigan. Michigan.
Michigan's the one that looks like a glove.
Yeah.
It's the Mitten State.
Mitten. It's
probably
probably
this is a picture of.
Yeah, I'm not sure which way I'm coming down this year, but I don't know. I might have to check that out. Might have to swing left or right when I hit the border.
Yeah,
backwards a little
the peninsula, because they don't want you Canadians coming in there. It's a peninsula with no bridges, so you'd have to go all the way down into the States and then back up. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They surrounded themselves in the water, so that wouldn't happen.
There might be a ferry boat.
Fury Princess will float Bob across.
I'll just put some pontoons on the RV.
Big shop, though. That's cool. Thanks for taking the pictures. Thanks for the story. And yeah, that's pretty neat. That's the whole point of the thing. And that's what we're going to be going around trying to find these places. Because yeah, that's not necessarily on the beaten path, way the hell out in the middle of the peninsula, something like that.
Yeah, that's a great looking store. I mean, that's like I said, that's the kind of place I would actually go out of my way to check out. You know what I mean?
This is the sign Squib was referring to as far as at the entrance to the store.
Mm-hmm. No,
well, I mean, it's not so much that it's guns. It's they want guns, bows, fishing rods, so they know that you brought it in rather than sold it, or rather than just picked it up while you were in there. That makes perfect sense.
GPS, tent stacks, boots, socks, dog collars. I mean, it's things of value. So to reduce, I'm assuming theft.
Now, did you see windbreakers on that list anywhere?
I did not see windbreakers. I did see windbreakers in the pictures, though, I think.
Man,
awesome.
I tell you.
So why don't we do the gun of the day next?
Yeah, we can do
hold
gun
on,
of the day.
Hold on, hold the fire. Is there a fire? Hold the fire, hold the fire.
What?
There's a fire.
Oh,
or a bomb coming in. There's
how
something.
did we know that was coming?
Holy crap. It's time. It's time. It's time for the Tactical Pop Quiz. Yes, boys and girls, it is that time. I know you cannot believe it after that big giant stall I just did. It is time for the Tactical Pop Quiz. G-Webs, with all that advanced notice that I just gave you, would you be able to assist me in today's venture of what's the correct answer? Or what's the answer supplied, I should say.
I'm not prepared for that. I'm still dealing with the repercussions of having to open that browser to read that email.
Oh, I know. It was a heavy load. It was a heavy load.
Where is it? Oh, I see. Oh, that was those words there? Yeah, I guess I know what those words are now.
Yeah. Remember that thing we call a spreadsheet we occasionally use?
I remember. I found it.
Okay.
It's always in SMIC.
I'm just double checking.
It's always in
SMIC.
Right. Yeah, I'll look over there.
So the question for today, make sure your fingers are limber. Make sure your little flashy thingy is down in the text box. Like that, all that TikTok. Your flashy thingy.
Technical terms that always kill me.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
and
you made
question,
technology. Let's not assume that the audience is.
Yes. So I will read the question twice, and this one was courtesy of Cycle Camp, I believe. I forgot to write that down, but I'm pretty sure that this came from
Dano.
So
Dano, can you make sure you read the question twice?
Great idea. What does the B dictate on C85B? Yes, I will read it again. What does the B dictate on CZ85B, as in boy? CZ85B as in boy.
Davy Crockett? No.
So close. So close.
Nothing on the gun channel side. Nothing. British is not.
If Peggy was here, he would be like all choked up inside.
Boobs is not correct. British is not correct. No more answers.
This might be one that gets all the way through again. Cycle Camp just makes the best questions. They're really tough.
Yeah, well, it was angry.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry about that, angry.
Oh, Dano.
Well, we've got a couple submissions, both from Angry, which have been I just incorporated into it, as well as Cycle Camp, as well as I think I got some as well as from Hori.
Track them down.
Answer.
Well,
we have an answer on the YouTube side. Clover Tack.
Oh, really?
What is,
way to go, Clover Tack.
What's the username?
Clover.
Who is it?
Clover Tack.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Okay.
Okay.
Bob was speaking over you.
Of course.
Congratulations, Clover Tack. You got the correct answer. Raphael, you are too late.
Hold on.
With your answer.
The correct answer was
firing pin block.
There you go.
That is the correct answer. So congratulations, Site Clover. Correct answer for today's tactical pop quiz.
Site Clover American. How many people are you going to smash into one week?
Okay. Apparently, I'm having a stroke and having difficulty putting words together.
I feel like we're obligated to 3 winners now. Somebody stop him before he gives out another one.
Oh, good God.
Okay, Bob, it's all up to you. Save this segment.
Oh, right. Yeah, I guess Cycle Camp, you know what that makes you? That makes you the tactical shot of the day. There you go.
That was amazing with Dano's echo.
Now, did he actually cite the correct winner?
Clover Tack, yes.
G-Webs?
Bob is
because
correct.
You said something else.
I thought he said cycle. It sounded like Bob ran up to the Grand Canyon and yelled that angrily into it.
Because you said Clover Tack.
That's the answer.
No, you said Cycle Camp.
Oh,
I don't know.
We don't know. It doesn't matter. We don't send anything. It's just a scam. We just do this to get people's.
Clover Tack is the one who got the answer on YouTube, right?
Correct. But
right.
Bob,
right. But that's not the name you said.
Dan was saying you said Cycle Camp incorrectly.
No, I said Clover Tack.
Look, the important part is that you're sending in your Social Security checks and Grandma's chain to Daily Gun Show and PayPal. You just need to make some. All right, so let's keep moving. That was the end of today's tactical pop quiz. You never know.
I think it's the end of the show.
You never know when the tactical pop quiz is going to happen. You never know who's going to win. So we get a lot of suggestion that the YouTube side never wins, but it looks like the YouTube side won again. So that'll take us.
You have to do the gun of the day too.
Wait. We're going to have some time with Bob and the gun of the day. What's our gun of the day today?
Gun of the day, FG42. Now, this is for those who might be mistaken or maybe have bad hearing and don't hear everything, the FG42, not the MG42. The FG42 was developed specifically for German paratroopers. It's a rather odd gun, but it is one of the really. It's a premier gun. If you're collecting World War II German guns, this is the one you want. It's both semi-auto, full auto. It shoots from a 10 or a 20 round magazine that's fitted in from the side. It's a side magazine mount. It's a wonderful rifle. They do make some reproductions now, but the original ones are just almost, they're priceless. They're the golden brick, golden egg. But yeah, great rifle. Just one of those ones that's really rare. So if you get a chance to shoot one, shoot one. They're really neat to shoot, and yeah, they're just I just love them. I think they're so cool looking. They're almost futuristic.
And when did you have the opportunity to shoot one, Bob?
Replica, yeah. Guy up here's got a replica at the range.
Full auto replica?
No, it's only semi-auto.
I mean, you said it was very fun to shoot, so I was wondering where the fun.
I'm sure it would be a lot more fun in the full auto.
Well, let's look at it. I think the part of what Bob's saying is fun. I think part of the enjoyment of shooting different guns is like if you jump on different motorcycles or if you drive in different cars, they're going to drive differently. They're all cars. They all drive you down the road. But the way you interface with it and the way you sit in it, the way you experience the road and other drivers, so the way that you experience recoil, this thing is the ugliest thing ever. So, of course, Bob likes it. So what a regular person is going to have their face all up with this mag in their nose, and then this bolt is going back into some kind of crazy German shoulder thing underneath all that wood. So, yeah, I imagine the mass of the bolt carrier on this thing is going past your cheek. and it's German, so there's about 800,000 extra parts in there. And then, yeah, I imagine it's got to be an experience, just like driving a Jaguar compared to driving a Civic to work, right?
I think of it as having a similar experience to another German product, the VW 1970s, mid-70s. The German VW company had this product called the Thing.
There you go.
And yes, it looked very much like the word, the Thing.
No, exactly.
It went beyond description. It was that beautiful. It was an experience to be had.
No, I think that's exactly it. And this is, it's probably interesting to shoot. I have no fondness for Nazi shit, so I don't get it. But
yeah, well, I like it. I think it's German workmanship, which may have some extra parts, but it's just it's the machine. It's such a finely crafted, the way it works. I mean, it's just made to be, this shoots a rifle cartridge, not one of them stupid intermediate cartridges. I mean, it's a real gun.
I figure by giving you a little sad Flippy and some music, that'll...
I know, that makes me feel bad for Flippy for some reason.
That he's so mesmerized by bubbles and sad?
Yeah.
All right, so that was our gun of the day. Every day we try and come up with a gun. Normally we'd say, give us some ideas, but Bob figures out all that on his own, so thanks for doing that. Where are we at? I think we might be wrapping it up early.
We haven't done gun channels tonight.
That's true. So what is today? Tuesday? Is there even anything on Tuesdays?
I don't know.
There is. We smashed right on top of Andalusia Armory like normal. They were like minding their business, parked, and then we came in like a massive bus and just slammed into them. So they got in at the same time we do on Tuesdays. So you should probably listen to them if you don't like us. And if you like us, then you should listen to them after us. Today's Tuesday, so that means that intermittent will happen. Not sure if Smeggy will be in there because he's out driving around shooting and looting, but he might be. That's Tuesday nights 9 o'clock from what I understand. Then Big Gunner 81 also does a show on Tuesdays. Highly recommend that. I notice he a lot of times, if he doesn't already have a guest scheduled out or something, because he has a lot of projects that he has guests, for those projects, but he'll put up like on Facebook, hey, I'm doing a show tonight, anybody want in? And he ends up getting like a lot of interesting people on the show, people in the industry, people that are competitive shooters and stuff. So anyway, Big Gunner 81, he always broadcasts the show over on gun channels, and he never gets enough viewers in my opinion. So highly encourage you checking out his show. He's a good guy. I built gun channels with Ralph a long time ago so that we could build a place where people who are creating content can gather and collaborate and get, share audience and stuff. And then the people that people that are interested in this kind of grassroots, actually made content, not sponsored content, not polished or whatever, watching people cut their teeth and create content for the first time. There's people that appreciate that kind of content. I suspect some of the people watching this like that kind of content. So that's what Rick is. I mean, that's what Rick does. That guy, I don't know how he does it. He shoots a lot, and he has like a regular job in a profession that gives him good money, and he's doing good actual work, and he's not like me where I'm just bumming around all the time. So he does all of that, and on top of that he does a massive YouTube channel and those big projects like the 50 states of AR. Now he's doing 50 states of 1022 and some other things as well, but he also travels and he goes to places, so he puts an incredible amount of work on the plate. I don't know what kind of return he gets. Every once in a while he'll share with us where he's at with stuff, but he's by no means making a big giant pile of money on it, but he is working towards making it worth its while. And I think he's an excellent example of people we built for gun channels. I know I usually feature members between the first and second segment of the show, but since we're talking about Big Gunner, like I say, I'm always discouraged when I see so few people watching the show, because he brings on such a great mix of between competitive shooters and industry people. There's some big shows that don't have the mix of people that he's had on. In fact, I think he even had somebody on from one of those TV shows, The Walking Dead or something. So yeah, he's really working, and doesn't anywhere near as enough credit for it.
Yeah, he's actually, I don't know how he does it either. I mean, it's pretty amazing the amount of stuff he builds and does. Like his whole states, the 52 states ARs and stuff is just amazing stuff. And you should watch his shows. They are quite entertaining. You know, the funny thing is, I tend to watch them on YouTube because I'm subbed to his channel, so I'll see it come up on YouTube when I'm just browsing YouTube, and I'll start watching it on YouTube instead of on gun channels.
Now, since we are talking about Big Gunner, and he's got a show coming up tonight, that's the only reason I'm about to bring up this next question. Is I've never quite understood, and maybe one of you two, most likely G-Webs, could help answer my question. Is could you give me a better idea of the 52 states of AR? Does he mean 52 different ARs with all parts from that state?
Bob's Canadian. Number one, we only got 50 states. I don't know where he came up with 52, but as far as the corrected 50 states of AR project, I think his goal is to feature the manufacturers in each of the 50 states. Ideally, if there was a manufacturer of every AR part, he could create an AR from each state, like, you know, that was manufactured from its parts up in that state. Right. However, not every state has a barrel manufacturer, or, you know, all the different pieces. Right. But that's the goal, is to have as many manufacturers represented on a gun from each state. So Wisconsin, every part as possible is sourced from Wisconsin, so on and so on through each of the states. That's from the best I understand. That's the summary. And then he talks about it quite a bit as far as, like, you know, it's a giant project. So, you know, just I can imagine that'd be neat to drag around and set up on display at like a NRA show or something, where they have I think 20% of the floor space devoted to nonprofits and groups and stuff.
Yep.
If let's say Iowa gun is incomplete, does he just assemble it as far as it can be assembled? And that's until something else comes in.
They're complete guns, I think. So I mean, he doesn't have 50 guns right now. He's in the process of, you know, creating them, as far as I understand, for the last time I'm aware. But yeah, if it's like a state doesn't have a barrel manufacturer, that gun will still have a barrel. It's just that it'll be from a different state. But you know, every state has a receiver manufacturer, so to where it's possible, each state will have a receiver from that state. But then another state will have, you know, handguards and grips and everything else on some other receiver, just because there's
every part that state produces goes into that gun. That's the gun from that state. Right. So if it doesn't produce all the parts, he uses, you know, generic parts or parts from another state to complete the gun. But every part that's manufactured in that state that he, you know, that's available, he does put into the gun. That's the point of it.
That can just about be a lifelong project, or at least a couple of decades, to try to get that as thorough as possible.
Yeah.
Seriously? Yeah, and then to just keep manicuring it, you know, changing it as time goes on. Yeah, I think that's kind of a neat one. He's been featured in magazines, so it's caught the eye of people that think it's a clever concept.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And as far as creating content, when we look at it from a content creator level, it's given the manufacturers out there an opportunity to feature their product in an interesting project, right? And it gives you a project that's just got an ultimate amount of content you can glean from it. So obviously each gun is a video, you know, periodically, really. So he's got at least 50 videos right there. You know, you could do that once a year. That's a video coming out each week just to update you on the gun. So that could be done, you know, in a couple of weeks, and you could have a channel running just on that. But then you go through and you look at all the handguards. You just compare 50 handguards, you compare 50 muzzle brakes, you compare 50 of any individual part. That's a whole nother series of videos, right? You could compare parts that are in a certain price range. I mean, that's a lot of opportunity when you have that many guns just sitting around together for comparison as far as content creation, not to mention going out and shooting.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But he can take that to like a 4-H or a Scouts or some other civic, youth group, church group, school thing, maybe, if it's the right kind of school, right? You could take that to a group and every kid could have a really cool gun, not just some stupid, you know, Arsenal basic model, but like, oh, look at how mine cool is, and oh, I like this part about mine, or mine's red.
Yeah, he's also, I think, started doing something like that with the 1022, which is even better for that kind of school, you know, getting kids started on guns, right? Because it's the 1022 is pretty much a generic 22 nowadays.
No, I'm not gonna go that far. All right. So anyway, that's what's happening tonight on Gun Channels. Tomorrow we'll be back at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 Pacific. But before we start up, Jimmy James will be doing the early watch, or Connery, because Jimmy's got people in town this week. But basically, there'll be a long format show. So better than listening to the radio or watching TV or something distracting, you can just go over to Gun Channels, head over to the lobby or early watch, whatever channel it's on, and listen to the conversation. It's fairly formatted. Those guys do a certain amount of things, throughout the day to keep the show moving. And then there's plenty of open spaces for conversation. So you can just listen and be, hear an interesting organic conversation that isn't driven necessarily by some agenda. And then if you want to participate in it, you can do so by the chat, the text chat. So you can just, be at work or whatever, doing other things. I'm usually, working, and then typing into the chat if there's something to participate. And then if you got the time and there's something really interesting going on, there's almost always links. Jump in and be part of the actual conversation. So that's open pretty much every single weekday on Gun Channels. Then we will be back, like I say, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, for our Wednesday show, which will be entertainment. And tomorrow it's deep concealment at a concert. So if anybody goes to concerts, we'll talk about what to do there. We have a good idea, bad idea segment tomorrow. Hollow point ammunition for military sidearms. And then we do the hashtag Daily Gun Show Showdown. So if you participate over on the Instagrams and you like to post pictures over there, use the hashtag Daily Gun Show, which helps our show out, hopefully, and also lets us find you. We take a look at the posts that have been made since the last week. And I don't know if anybody wrote the number down. I guess we did 700 posts last week. So we'll take a look at however many posts are over there now, have accumulated over the week, and then we judge them, and we tell you who is the best picture taker on Instagram. And usually there's all kinds of adventure.
Yeah, that week.
One other thing I want to throw out there is we have once a week we have a viewer suggested topic, and today we had a slot for that. And I want to suggest, if you have a topic that you would like to hear us discuss or have our input on, whatever, feel free to, if you don't have to wait until the show to simply type it in there, you can simply email it to us at dailygunshow@gmail.com and just put in, random miscellaneous topic for discussion, something like that. And then we'll put that in the Tuesday slot.
That's a great point.
Ahead of time.
There you go.
I mean, the chat's been booking on both sides, really. So I didn't see anybody throw a suggestion out there. Sorry if you didn't, we missed it. But it's because there was a lot of chatter today, not because we were ignoring it.
Yeah.
But yeah, a great
what
idea.
reminded me of it is one of the topics tomorrow was one sent in by viewer Hori. Sent that in. And thanks, Hori, for sending in that suggestion. We certainly appreciate it, along with a couple of the other emails you sent.
And I think we can wrap up the show by going back to Indiegogo and saying thanks for whoever, I didn't take a look yet, but whoever, threw another couple of bucks on the pile. So that's all going to gas. The tour has happened sooner than you might expect.
It is going. Yeah.
Yes, doing it. Every time I try to do this at the end of the show, Bob's got to make some weird noise or contradict something, ruin it.
Sorry, my chair squeaked.
We'll do the whole show over again. I feel like in order to get it ramped up to the sell at the end here, the call to action, where we're trying to get their money. Damn it. All right, well, we'll work on it next time. But anyway, I really do appreciate it. Send me through 25 bucks in the pile. That's literally, well, it's not quite a tank of gas, but it's a big chunk of a tank of gas. So thanks very much for that. Hopefully everybody will enjoy what we come up with as far as sharing the adventures here. And like I say, they'll be happening sooner than you might expect. I think with that, unless Dano's got anything.
Suggestion.
Good. What's up?
What's up, Dano?
No, I'm just saying that what you're saying is a hint. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
All right. So if we're done, I can do the quote at the end of the show here if you want.
Not quite done, because
Take it away.
I wanted to thank, I'll make them anonymous because I don't like it when people point me out necessarily, because I'm sure he's trying to help out. But I want to thank the people that bought the set of Gunshow Loophole patches over on gear websites. I'm not rich, so I really do appreciate all the $40, $30 that come in. Good cut of that pays for the stuff and ships it to you, but the rest of that goes in the tank. So really do appreciate the people that are participating like that. I write thanks on the envelope, but I want people to know that it really means a lot. So, all right. So with that, I guess I'll let Bob finish the show.
Are you sure? Okay. Well, we end our show. As everybody knows, we end it with a quote. And this one I think is quite appropriate for what's coming down the road here. But before that, I'd like to remind everybody, please like, share, subscribe. Visit us on Patreon and help out if you can. But anyway, this quote today is by Thomas Jefferson. And it's, one travels more usefully when alone because he reflects more. On that note, I want to thank everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
The guys and gals of gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com. The guys and gals.
Actually, sir, we've been booked into a small theater in New Mexico.
Whoa, whoa, slow down there, maestro. There's a New Mexico.